Fantastic agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, November 17th, 2022. And this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 404. I want you all to see I'm wearing my convention shirt today. So, Tim, we had somebody there say we look like a NASCAR crew.
I think we look like the LA Chargers or LA Rams, rather.
We do, but we got a lot of good compliments about our color scheme and the booth and the great crew we had there. We're glad to meet. We probably met maybe 10 of you, which is great. Those of you that were there. There was a last-minute hurricane that drove down the attendance a bit, but still a great event, and it was a pleasure to meet those of you that we could meet with personally. Before I forget, for some reason, we're not going to do a call next Thursday, probably because it's Thanksgiving. So we will resume 2 weeks from today. And with that, I will turn it over to Bruce.
Well, before you do that, yeah. I want it to be known that in the tradition of being the president or CEO, I pardoned a turkey. So you've been pardoned, Jim.
Bruce, thank you, Bruce. Yeah.
Am I supposed to say something after that?
Nah.
I can't.
It was a very foul joke. So go ahead.
Ooh, see what he did there?
We're done. We're done. This is what you get when you work with.
That was a real feather in your cap there, Jimmy.
Work with fun people. God. Go ahead, Bruce, because this could go on for an hour.
You better hurry up.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. We are excited to have you all here. If you've never been here before, this call is for you. This is a live Q&A and interactive call. You can listen to us coaches babble on, and if you don't want to hear any more lame jokes, put those hands up. All right. If you don't want to hear Jim and Tim continuing to make foul turkey jokes, get your hands up. Let's hear some of your successes, your ideas of the week, your questions. We center this call heavily around probate prospecting and marketing, but that's not all it is. So if you are in the real estate space and you have some things that you're doing that are working for you, or you have deal structuring questions, if you have questions about prospecting, divorce, pre-probate, about marketing to direct mail, websites, attorney relationships, we do want to hear from you guys. We're All the Leads. I think everybody here does know that, but we we provide and sell leads to agents and investors in the probate, pre-probate, and divorce space, with some more lead sources coming. Give a full CRM with it, give full marketing team, websites, and support staff along with that. So it's kind of a business in the box.
Hey, Bruce, I don't know if I missed it, but Colin just texted, do you need a Zoom account to join? So do you want to address how they can join on the different medias?
Yep. You don't have to have a Zoom account. As a matter of fact, there is a button. If you try to join through Zoom, there's a way that you can join through your browser without a Zoom account. It's kind of small text when you go in, but you can join on Zoom. This is where we're heavily interactive and you can speak up and ask your questions, but you can also go to our Facebook page, All the Leads Mastermind. So it's in our Facebook group, All the Leads Mastermind. You can also join us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is All the Leads, and we're streaming this live in both of those places as well. So if you chat your questions in there, we will see it. If you have a question that you'd like to ask us or a story that you'd like to share and engage with us on the Zoom recording, go down to the bottom of your screen and click the reactions button and raise your hand. We will call on you and ask you to unmute yourself with those stories or questions that you may have. With that said, we kind of like to start with some coaches' tips and advice. So do any of my coaches have any tips, and not turkey jokes? Turkey jokes are okay. I'll just leave.
So I had some takeaways. And as Jim had mentioned when we first started up the call, that we were down in Orlando at the NAR NXT convention. You know, it was definitely impacted by the hurricane that came through in the middle of the week. But we did have the opportunity to meet a number of great, awesome realtors and folks that were there in the exhibition hall. One thing that was a real takeaway for me, we talked to a ton of people. I mean, a lot of folks. And when we talk about all the leads and we talk about what we focus in on as far as probate leads, as well as pre-probate and divorce, one of the things that struck me as rather odd, but then again, I've got my blinders on. I'm very focused on my estate solutions business, but just the amount of agents that were maybe a little bit resistant to the niche of probate. So, and it's not that it's a bad thing, it's that it's a very excellent thing that some people aren't willing to develop themselves or their business. It may not be that approach that they want to take, but just know that for those of you that are here and that are focused on that particular niche, I get a lot of conversations about competition. Well, am I late to the party? No. You are not late to the party, and this approach on how to secure never-ending business in a niche that will not dry up is not on the radar of everybody in and around your marketplace. So please understand that by you being here, you are one of the select few that is chosen to help people settle estates easier than doing it alone. And not every other agent in your market, as we approach, let's call it choppy waters compared to what we've been through. It's a different market. It's normalizing. We've got the interest rates. We've got the low inventory. We've got a lot of fear and uncertainty that may be out there. The niche that we're focused on here with probate and helping people settle estates will be consistent throughout this time period. So please be aware. Do not be fearful of competition. Put your blinders on and link up with us to be able to help you grow your business in the best way possible. We will help you customize it specific to your business as well as your local market.
Yeah, this is a recession-proof lead source, guys. It's recession-proof. People always have to settle probate. They don't always have to sell. The want-to home sellers, the want-to buyers right now, simply are sitting on the sidelines. If you want to deal with people that are in a need to and a have to situation, this is the space. And if you differentiate yourself a little bit by offering more than just I'll sell your house or I'll help you buy a house, you're going to be in great position to win that business. And that goes for you investors as well. A lot of times we talk to realtors, and is a great area for investors also.
Yeah, I'd add one thing to that. One of our great salespeople, Missy, got a question yesterday. She was talking to someone from the convention, and they asked her, is there a time when there are more probates, like after pandemics or natural disasters? And I think it's the first time I ever heard that question before. And sure, there's going to be a few more, but the reality is it's pretty inconsequential to the overall trend. Baby boomers, which is the biggest generation in history, are getting into their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And half of the coaches are among the group, unfortunately. But there is going to be more probates in increasing numbers. And another thing that just to share with y'all, I don't think we've gone in most cases and increased the lead counts. So a lot of those leads counts we set when we started doing this. And I think in a lot of the counties, I don't want to create unrealistic expectations, but a lot of the counties, almost all the counties, the lead counts have consistently increased. In a lot of our counties, we might promise you 30 leads. Don't be surprised if you get 40 or 50. So it is an increasing market. Unless they cure old age and death, I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. So it's just yeah.
An interesting stat and projection. I mean, Jim, you're referencing very much towards the silver tsunami. And currently and up to 2027, I think it's estimated that senior real estate being active on the market is relatively 15%. By 2037, that percentage is expected to grow more than double, over 30%. So we are in an increasing volume or slice of the pie when it comes to listed inventory and houses that are being sold. So getting in now and building a strong, robust business and being able to help people, building out the team of referral resources really is doing a service to the community, and this niche will continue to grow.
I think that the thing that I would, you're absolutely right, and that's very well put, Chuck. And the thing that you need to be aware of, keenly aware of, is that our intent here, yes, we certainly provide you with leads, and those are the ones that are actionable and the ones that we know about. As you build this business, as you grow it, and we always refer to it as a pillar, you become a community expert in probate. And the size of that community is something only you can determine. And if you decide that you want that community to be the community that you live in, and whenever anyone has anything that has to do with probate, you're that go-to gal or guy that they want to talk to, that's where you really, really start to reap the benefits from this. What we furnish you in leads will be important, and it's always that you need a very organized system to prospect those leads, to work with them, to do the things you need to do to make them work. And we provide that system for you. As Bruce said, we have a totally done for you system, including all of the mail. We provide you with a credibility website. We provide you with every kind of training you could possibly imagine, not the least of which is hundreds of hours of these calls and other things that we do to make all this work. But more importantly, we're teaching you how to become a community expert in probate. And we're going to do the same thing in the other lead sources that we do. You're going to become a community expert in divorce if you choose to do that and move along with us and help you build another pillar in that arena as well. But this one in particular is one that is absolutely going to grow. And the stats that we just talked about are vital. I mean, it's logical. People are living longer, and as they live longer, they stay in houses longer. Therefore, the number of people that do this and transfer upon death just gets larger in the senior community. So you need to be working all of the sources in that, and that's what we teach you to do. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that in the coming year. We've got some pretty cool stuff going on in terms of a neat curriculum program to help you do that in a very organized manner to even make this easier for you. So very well said, Chuck.
Hey, Tim, I was going to add, I don't know what the statistic is, but I suspect the divorce rate's going up a bit too. I saw something which was amusing, but not so much, that after COVID, the divorce rate went up because a lot of people realized they didn't like each other that much. Getting locked into the house over a long period of time. So,
well, the other thing that's happening is that divorces are happening to people who have been married 20 and 30 years. Yeah. For similar reasons. They live longer, and at retirement, for the same reason that people, did this during COVID, divorce rates did skyrocket during and after COVID. And the same thing is happening as our population ages. People retire, and all of a sudden they're home, and the husband or wife says, "Man, I don't want this guy hanging around all day long. I don't like this. This isn't working out very well for me." And it is definitely a factor. I read something the other day about just that divorce is becoming not an epidemic, but certainly rampant in that. And, we live in a state where there's an area called the Villages, and the Villages has a, reputation for being a bellwether of what goes on in senior communities all over the country. And divorce lawyers are a dime a dozen in that community for that exact reason. So
I feel like I should cap this off on a positive note that my father-in-law is 94 years old. He's in great health, and I've been married for 35 years, still in my first marriage. So they don't all end that way, but the ones that do, we can be there to help the people.
Pam did call me yesterday, Jim. We'll talk about it later.
Oh, shoot. Okay. All right.
All right. So guys, here we are. We're back and forth. Let's get some hands in the air. As Bill
you bet
did earlier. Let's hear those questions. Probate questions, pre-probate, divorce, real estate, deal structuring. What do you guys have? And if you are watching us on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, you can chat your question in. It will come through to us to answer that question if it's in chat. But I'd really love to see some faces and hear some voices here.
And a lot of you are new to the call. I've noticed as people are coming in, there's a lot of names that are new folks because we've had a lot of growth in literally the last week and a half. And a lot of new people have joined us and are joining our community of super qualified folks and taking advantage of what we offer. Don't hesitate to do this. We're not here to put you on the spot or anything else. If you've just got a question about, what's the right thing to do, where should I start, any of those sorts of things, ask a question. That's what we're here for. We are glad to talk to you. And if not, you'll probably have to put up with more bad jokes, and I'm running out. So
we've been seeing a lot of people having more and more success driving traffic to their website. Last week was a big website week, and Andrew, I'll call you in just a sec. Last week was a big topic of websites and kind of a digital presence. The last thing that you guys want if you're pursuing the probate niche, the divorce niche, the pre-probate niche, is to have people go check you out and either A, not be able to find you, or B, find you, but you're demonstrating a skill that just isn't relevant to them. I've gone and looked up agents that specialize in probate, and the only website that I can find is a website that says I work with first-time home buyers, which is a great niche. Not saying that you should get rid of the things that you're doing now, but you need to add to it with a digital presence. And that would be in the form of websites, videos, blogs, different things like that. We can coach you on your websites and blogs, or on your videos and blogs. We can actually provide you guys with the website to be able to host those videos and blogs as well. So let us know if there's anything to do, but I'm just going to challenge you guys to have a presence online so that your consumers that you're mailing to and you're calling can go find you and see that you know what you're doing in this space. With that said, let me go ahead and have Andrew unmute himself. Andrew, you are up.
Hey guys, thanks for having me up.
Absolutely. How's it going?
Good. So just to give you a little background, I'm a realtor in Long Island. I've been in the business 8 years. But I've never prospected probate before. And I just started up with you guys. I have 2 lists of leads. So I was just curious. I love the whole idea of marketing yourself as a probate expert, having a variety of services and people to refer, and being that go-to resource for all things that the homeowner might need. My question is, how many times, I do have an average.
You just went on to mute somehow. Hold on.
Before you actually start getting some responses from people. Like, I know for sale by owners, I got to reach out at least 5-6 times and I'll convert somebody. Do you have any stats on this?
The hard and fast stats are a little harder to nail down because so many people will only do once or twice or 0 times. I find, and this is more of in my market, and the people that I've privately coached, I find that it takes 6 months to convert the average person. That is typically around the 2nd or 3rd conversation. Now, you're going to outreach to get 2 to 3 conversations. You're going to outreach 6 to 8 times.
Okay.
2 to 3 conversations. That initial call is normally a little bit more shallow. You're gathering some information. You're kind of identifying a time frame that they're going to be dealing with, and then they go into the pipeline, and that pipeline is where you're going to convert your deals. When I'm prospecting, I'm going to get maybe 0.5%, 1% on the up end of people that the very first time I talk to them set an appointment.
Right.
I will get another 4 or 5% if I keep them in the pipeline and move them through a 6 to 7 month campaign.
So how many touches do you think you're going to be doing a month? And by touches, I mean, I expect obviously at least 1 phone call, but what about follow-up, like email touches, postcards? What do you guys have structured?
Mail is basically every month in the long run. In the short term, there are people that will do more often, every 2 to 3 weeks for 2, 3, 4 touches. But after that, I want to fall into a monthly mailing with them. Emails, I'll usually implement emails in after I've engaged them in a conversation. I'll put some emails in because then I'm confirming that email is good, that it's not one that they haven't opened for 10 years, that kind of
Right.
thing.
You don't want them to unsubscribe either.
Yep, exactly. So once I've had a conversation, I go pretty heavy on email, or I'll at least mix that in. Up until the point I've had a conversation, it's letters and phone calls. And my phone calls, just like my letters, are probably weekly for a couple of weeks, every 3 weeks for another month, and then just a monthly kind of follow-up call thereafter if you haven't engaged them in the first month or two.
Okay.
So Andrew, I think there's a lot of creativity that can be pulled into this type of approach, because I think what you were asking was from a follow-up perspective, then how often to reach out to them. Am I hearing you correctly?
Well, I know from experience, just being a realtor, that I have to always follow up. That's like 80% of the business comes from follow-up. So, I'm fully expecting not to convert everybody on just one touch. And what I want to know from you guys is there a specific campaign or strategy that's working really well? Because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I just want to copy what works.
Yeah. I think typically when I make a connection with somebody on the phone, I'm going to set that appointment, and I'm not going to tell them, well, call me when you need help. I'll say, well, I'll touch base with you in a couple of weeks just to see how things are going, because that's typically one of the main questions that I'm asking is, so do you have everything handled at this point, especially if that's early on since the time that they had filed probate. And, I'll just tell them, hey, I'll touch base with you just to check in and make sure everything continues going well, because you said you didn't need any help right here and right now.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I do want to get, and Bruce alluded to it early on, is I want to get that email. Whether I'm saying, hey, let me, what's the best email for me to send you my contact information so you have it saved in your emails. I can also send you an electronic copy of my trifold brochure. So when you do need help, you'll have my information readily available. Right. To reach out and get in touch with me. Because once I get that email, then I have the opportunity to set up a drip campaign, and those types of things are going to be rather specific and custom to your business, your model, and how you'd like to be communicating with these folks.
Andrew, your question, and I realize we're being a little bit vague with you, and that's unintentional. I asked an attorney friend of mine. We were going into filing a lawsuit, or one of my clients was filing a lawsuit, and I was kind of helping her get it set up. And I asked my attorney, I said, how much is this going to cost her? And he said, how long is a rope? And it was like, that's a terrible answer. I want to be able to tell her how much this is going to cost. Well,
it's like walking into a restaurant. Walk into a restaurant and say, how much is food?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So what I will tell you is, baseline practices are you should call once a month, mail once a month. That's baseline practices. When I am heavily and actively engaged in prospecting probate leads, and admittedly, I'm not able to do that right now like I was, but when I am, I will constantly adjust. Over the course of 6 months, I've done as many as 14 mailers over the course of 6 months. I've done as few as 4. Okay. I always call at least once a month, always, period, no matter what. There are times when I'll load it up during that first month, and they're going to hear from me 5 times. It depends on
It depends on the conversation with the person, obviously, right?
Yeah, well, so I'm saying I'm going to call every week if they haven't answered. So if they haven't answered during that first month, I'm pretty much going to call every week if I can. If I've had a conversation with them and they say, hey, no, we're going to stay in the house, I'm living here right now, then I may not check back in for 3 months. But if they've never answered, I want a monthly call and a monthly mail. And you may dial it up a little bit. You may dial it back a little bit, but general baseline practices are monthly call, monthly mail if you haven't engaged in a conversation with them yet.
And vary the mailing. Don't just do the same thing every time.
Right.
If you talk to your marketing implementation specialist, I don't know if you've had that conversation or not, but you should mix it up. And you should potentially do Bruce refers to them as a high value piece of mail, but something that has something they'll keep. Maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's a, multi-page brochure and a flyer, or
Right,
you
right.
do a large format postcard that they'll keep. And one of the things that frequently happens, and this is because probate leads season well, as you do this and you stick to it, if you're in this for a year and you do what we've talked about, without a doubt, you're going to have people come back to you, 6, 7, 8 months out and say, I wasn't ready when you first started doing all this, but I kept that card, I kept your letter, I kept whatever, and
Right.
I'd like to talk to you about what you have to offer. So you got to put things in front of them that are memorable. And the large format postcards with good information on them that feature your number and maybe a QR code that links back to your website. That's the right answer. And if you don't have a website with us, you should certainly pursue that. And it's a great place to land traffic. And it literally does paint you as a community expert in probate. And that's, you're just trying to tie all this together.
And Tim, on that point, Colin just texted, will there come a time when we can log into the back end of our website and make updates, corrections ourselves? Might be a good time to
You
answer
can do that the day that you get it. You can do it the
That's
day
what
that
I
you get it. Your website is a WordPress website. We set it up for you. We put a lot of great content in it, and we work with you to populate the pages that we provide to start with. We also have some value-added pages that we can add to kind of prompt you to do some things that you might want to put in there. And a lot of our customers go in and add multiple things. They add other forms. They do all kinds of things. We give you a form for both potential people to offer their property to you or information, and also an attorney attractor that we put in there, which not only does give you a space to bring attorneys to, but it also lets your potential probate customers know that you do work regularly with attorneys and all of that. You may also want to highlight your folks that are working with you and give them some ad space. So you've got a clean out crew in a estate sale company or whatever, you may want to give them some space on your site. And over time, one of the things we can teach you is how to ultimately look at that as a co-op and let them start subsidizing your efforts. They'll help you pay for your marketing. So we can talk about all of that, but it all goes together.
Colin just had a follow-up while you were explaining to him. He said, I keep being told I need to email support for changes. Is there a login for WordPress?
Yes.
Yeah. We give you your username and password. When you get your site, you get the username and password along with it.
And if you don't have that, grab support, have them show you what your login is. I have a WordPress site that I have the back end access to. It's fairly easy. I don't want to say that it's the easiest thing if you've never touched a website to do yourself. But it's fairly self-explanatory when you go in to make your own changes, add your own content, things like that.
And it's not, if you have a problem and you stumble a little bit and you need a little more help, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you.
Andrew, did we answer your questions? Your hand is back up, so you may have had a follow-up.
Yeah, no, I was just listening, and I actually wanted to ask you guys, as far as the divorce leads, I was thinking about pairing up with an attorney friend of mine. He's a divorce specialist, and try to market to them. But I want to know before I ask him, are you getting these leads because they have already filed and they've hired an attorney, or like, is it not worth it for him to jump on this with me?
So the issue with divorce has always been, it's sort of been the holy grail since the first day we started. We started with probate because we knew it was available and we could pull that data, and we built over the years, we built a great research program to get that data. We frequently took a flyer and tried to get divorce data, and we were never able to get it in the way that we wanted it. And now we are getting it on filing as opposed to decree. Almost in every case, when a divorce is filed, there's an attorney somewhere already been in the game.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that both the parties have an attorney. And that's the point I would make to you, is that typically whoever's doing the filing, the petitioner is going to have an attorney. The respondent may not have an attorney immediately. So if you got at it early on, and if we're getting it to you in a very timely way, typically the respondent is going to need an attorney. So the answer is probably yes, you may want to do that. I'm not saying they're going to get rich doing that, but certainly one or two along the way would help. And the flip side of that is you're just looking for a little bit of quid pro quo there.
Yeah. All right, good. I'm glad to know that. Thank you.
And Tim,
Okay.
while you're on that, we're having good text-in questions today. Jim Forsyth asked if you could also elaborate just a little bit on pre-probate in addition to divorce.
Okay. And I do want to get to the people with their hands up, but I'll do that real quick. So the difference between pre-probate and probate is pretty simple. With probate, we begin our augmentation process. If you've been on this before, I kind of talk about the fact that we've got, over 30 steps we take each lead through to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. The phone numbers are right. The mail is deliverable. Everything that we can do to proof it out, we do for you. In addition to that, if you have Property Plus, we do a lot of digging to actually find available properties all over the country for it, and anything that decedent owned anywhere, we try to get our hands around. So we provide you with as much actionable knowledge as you can before you even have that first conversation or do that first piece of mail. Pre-probate, we start at a different point. There's no personal representative that's been appointed. We begin with notice of death. We can get that either through a newspaper, an official notice of death, obituaries getting posted. We get some data from the various funeral home services, also the Legends and other places that do things like that. There's a whole industry, online industry around death, and their memorial services places and all of that. And those pop up really, really quickly as soon as someone passes. So we start with that. And then from that, we then look at what the data says in the obituary for the survivors. And we attempt to go skip trace the survivors to give you name, address, city, state, and zip of the survivors. We don't give you an attorney. In probate, we do, because there's not an attorney been appointed. And we don't have a PR because there's no personal representative been appointed. So it typically is a great product for the investor side, potentially not as much for just straight up on the agent side, because it's maybe not as quick to be prosperous. But I've also heard great stories from folks who are doing pre-probate that are agents, and they go right out and get a listing because the person who they are contacting as an heir also turns out to be that they're going to be the PR. And it's a great way to build that relationship. The net is a bit wider in pre-probate and a little bit less deterministic. And in probate, it's very tight, and we start with the PR. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Bruce, back to you, bud. Call on your hands up.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the next hand that's up. Itamar, if you can go ahead and hop on camera. We talked down in Orlando at the show. This is really exciting for those of you who are looking for success stories. I'm interested to hear, what do you got going on up there in New Jersey?
Hey guys, just want to say it was great meeting you guys in person for the first time over the weekend. I would like to share my win that I've had. I've been here for about a little bit less than a month. I've had you guys, so I've only had one list provided. Within the list, I've called. I only do calls, no mailing, nothing, just calling every day, about an hour or two every day. And I finally got in touch with someone who wanted to meet the next day, who wanted to meet at the house the next day. He wanted, I gave him the option whether if he wanted it listed on the market, if he wanted a quick cash sale. He had mentioned to me he wasn't really interested in waiting that long and putting it on the market, and that he was very interested in a quick cash sale. And that was about, I would say I reached out to him last Monday. We met on Wednesday, and we are currently under contract on the sale of his brother's home. So it worked out very well. Either way, it would have worked out, either buying it or putting it on the market. People just needed our help. He was very thankful for our service. We let him keep the stuff in there. We're removing all the stuff for him. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
So tell us a little bit more. I mean, is this like kind of a real skinny deal, or is this something that you're like, okay, I'd like to have a whole bunch more of these?
No, it's an amazing deal. The house to the left is actually just went under contract for a lot more than we purchased his for. He really just wanted, all he cared about was the money to pay back for his brother's medical bills and for the rest of the mortgage on the house. And then from there on, it was straight profit for him. So he wasn't too concerned about the sale of the home. He was just thinking about a certain number in his own head that he needed to take home with him that day. So, I mean, hopefully everything should be good. We're doing an oil sweep on Tuesday, hopefully no oil tanks. And then from there, it should be cruise sailing.
That's
Itamar, I
amazing.
appreciate you not bragging, but I'm just curious, is it 5 or 6 figures profit for you?
Truthfully, we're going to make it into a rental, but it's a great return. It's about 11% return on investment as a rental.
Great. So you bought it significantly under market.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, good for you. That's great.
Amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
So how long after you got your first list did you sit around and say, I don't know what to say? What if I mess up? Should I pick the phone up? What else should I do? Let me go learn a whole bunch of stuff. How long did it take you to get on the phones?
So we had actually subscribed with you guys about 2 months ago. But our first month was only given, it took about 25 days to get that list in for the first month that we paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So prior to that, for about 25 days, I was listening to this class on Spotify on my way to the gym, on my way back at the gym, in between car rides. So I listened to about like 15 classes from you guys, which is nice meeting you guys in person last weekend for the first time. It's nice to put a face to a voice. But you guys really helped. A lot of people gave their win of the week. A lot of people gave what struggles they have. So I had somewhat of an idea how to come into this. And I looked up a couple scripts that I tweaked from there. And, I basically try to be as calm. When I call FSBOs and expireds, I try to be very energetic. So I tried to be a little bit more on the calm side. And another thing that I noticed is that I try to give them the option that whatever they need, I have the answer to, rather than try to go in at one point. So I kind of give them the option of that.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, you didn't sit on your list for 2 months before making your first call.
No, I started right away because I knew I had remembered you guys said it's important to get right away. And, we just purchased another county with you guys over the weekend. So we got the list from the last month's included in that. So I noticed I just started calling them, now I'm their third or fourth call. Whereas when I first got the list, I was their first call. And I've noticed a lot of them were a little bit more angrier because most of the calls they've been getting are from investors. And a lot of them are like, oh, well, it's too late. We sold. But, all these investors are trying to just make a quick flip, this, that. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I'm here to help you guys and, help you guys get the most out of your house and put it on the market and this and that. But I have noticed that if you wait on the list, investors will get to them first and they'll get a little bit upset about these calls.
So typically anyone that you may be competing with will make that first call, and then often by the time they're through that first month, your competition does tend to start to dissipate a little bit. But it's true. You need to be first to the list, and then you need to stick with it, because after that first month, maybe 2 months, any of your competitors often drop out. So they've gotten a little bit of resistance. And remember, a lot of anyone that may also be prospecting probate, a lot of times they're going in with hey, there's blood in the water. Somebody just died. Sell me the house. And that's never going to go over very well when you get somebody engaged in a conversation. So your competitors are doing that. You guys have to kind of fight to keep that perception off of you.
I'd also point out that it's great that you took action and jumped right in and got it done. I think that's wonderful. And it's a great testimony to not waiting and, not sitting around. And we refer to that as the tooth fairy, put it under your pillow and hope you're going to make money. Leads don't work that way. You've got to get after it and you got to get it done. The one thing I would encourage you to consider doing is that we talked earlier about the fact these leads season well. And one of the things that it would probably benefit you to do, again, back to becoming known as the go-to person in the community in terms of doing that, put a couple pieces of mail out there, one of them being a reasonable, maybe a full-size postcard or a large postcard out that's got your information on it, so that they've got something to hold on to. And when it becomes top of mind and something happens that triggers that fuse that says it's got to happen now, you're the first person that they think of. I realize you're calling them, but if you augment that, as you're being successful, reserve some of your money and get some stuff in there and put some mail in front of them as well, because our most successful folks are doing both and doing it well and getting good results from both sides of it. So just encourage you to consider that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we probably will start mailing in the near future. But for now, I just need busy work, as the market's slowing down a little bit. This has helped me add hours to my workday.
I got it, bud. You're a hardworking guy. That's good.
Thank you.
Tomorrow. Thank you, man. Nice to see you last week.
Thank you. It was nice to see you guys as well.
Perfect. Is Sam still in the room? Would you like to ask a question? I got a chat from you, and I can answer it through chat. But I'd love to hear from you, Sam. If you're available, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. How's it going?
All right, great, appreciate it. So I'm an agent. I'm in Washington D.C. I've actually been an agent for. I'll get on camera here. I've been doing this for a long time, about 24 years, and so. I think I started probate probably around 98 or 99, and then really got really heavy into it over the last 5 or 6 years. And so my main question is, normally probate takes a long time. In DC, we've really been behind since COVID. And so I've established some great relationships with attorneys. And so I have a few in queue. My concern is that as the market starts to kind of trend down a little bit, has anyone experienced where by the time you can get them to be able to get their letter of administration or authorization to sell, that they're kind of pulling back from wanting to sell? And if so, what type of conversations are you having with those people? Because they've waited a long time, but the market is kind of trying to change everywhere.
So these would be people that you're concerned are going to hold off on selling because they don't want to sell in a down market.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Of course, there's always going to be some folks that have options like that. And if they have options, then they may decide not to sell right now if they have options. Yeah. But the fact is, there are a lot of folks that are inheriting real estate that do not have an option.
Okay.
It's just not there. And so I would try to get in front of them as quickly as possible. Even if it's just, let me give you a comprehensive review. And you know what? Guess what, Mr. PR, Mrs. PR, this might not be best for you to sell right now. Let me swing out there, give it an assessment of your property, get an assessment of what you've got going on with probate, and I'll give you a proposal based on what I think is best for you.
Okay.
And then you present a couple of real estate options, and in some cases they may decide to hold on, especially if they live there. So if they're a beneficiary to the real estate, they need the house, or if they live locally and they can turn it into a rental. But I find that that's kind of a pretty small percentage. Most people are in a have to sell situation.
Yeah, I know in the court you can have that they have authorization. So I mean, they have to sell. I forget what it's called, but where it's a court appointed, and so you have to sell. And of course, those that are extra motivated, but the ones that aren't as motivated, that's kind of my concern. And so you're right. I mean, you just have to give them those options. But if you waited 6 or 7 months to kind of cultivate that relationship, you're ready to go. Then of course the market starts to change. So
great opportunity for a trial close. And what I would say about that is that someone who starts to shy away a little bit and worry that the market's dropping and all that. 2 questions. One, you always want to work on the kind of the fear of missing out. It's like, well, if you're worried about it now and it's going to go down longer, how long, do you think you might be willing to wait to do that? And more importantly, if I could get you 360 today, is that something that would, get you moving? Now you've done two things with it. You've established a price point, shoot them a number that, whatever you want to feel comfortable saying.
Sure.
And that way, if the motivation is there, that's financial, put the trial close in and see if you can move them forward that way. There are a lot of ways to steer that conversation. People are looking for your guidance.
Okay.
If I could add to something Bruce said, a little nugget I picked up from something you said, Bruce, and it brought me back to memories. Maybe 1% of the time you're going to advise them not to sell. Maybe it is a situation, maybe it's 5% where they would be better off keeping it. I promise you're going to be the only person that ever advises them to do something where you don't make any money.
Yeah.
You put those in your sphere of influence. Those are your friends for life. And they will be glad to refer people to you. So don't overlook those, because long term, those can pay off better than the deal you're going out there to get.
I totally agree. All right. I appreciate
Sam,
you guys. Thank you so much.
I'm going to leave you with this, and this is going to apply to a lot of folks that have been in the business for a little bit. If you're new, you are looking for these types of situations that you can turn into a story. Sam, you've been in the business since the late 90s. I've been in since the early 2000s. I've run into a lot of situations, good and bad stories, horror stories, great stories, different things like that. Take one of the stories from the last crash and use it. So mine is one of my agents put his house on the market after the market started falling in 2007. And he had a $2 million house and he put it on the market for $2 million. Problem is, the market was worth 1.9 then. He dropped to 1.9, market was worth 1.7. He dropped to 1.7, market was worth 1.5. And he chased the market down till he sold at 800.
Wow.
Chased it all the way down. So the last thing that someone that needs to sell a house wants to do, or if it's someone that maybe is on the fence about selling a house, but they don't need a house to live in, last thing they want to do is chase the market down or wait, thinking, okay, I'll wait until next year when it rebounds. Well, what if it doesn't? I mean, it might, but what if it doesn't? All right. So they just need to know what the potential gamble could mean.
To keep it. Yeah. Could cost you more. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate
you, man.
All right. Doug, we'll grab you in just a second. I've got a couple of chatted questions here. Miss Jewel, what insurance coverage company do you all recommend for houses in probate? Miss Jewel, if you do have an opportunity to clarify that just a little bit, that would be very helpful. I don't know if you can clarify it. There are pretty much any good PNC insurance agency, so property and casualty insurance agency, and specifically local agent that you have that wants to really become a partner with you is where I would go.
Bruce, she might be referencing vacant houses. A lot of the major carriers don't want to insure vacant property.
Sure. And that's why you want to go with someone local that you can build a relationship with. I wouldn't just randomly call the big box insurance agency up and say, and start referring business there. You need to leverage the local relationship in your market. So find a few independent, or they don't even have to be independent, but insurance agents that are local. I like to go with the independent guys. And form a relationship where you can send a lot of business to them, and they'll be really good about adding that vacant rider onto the policy. Whereas some of the bigger agents, and I'm not going to name names of any box agencies or anything like that, but some of them, they're just wanting to get in, give you the most simple basic policy that they can. They might have a vacant property rider, but they really don't make anything on it. So they're just kind of brushing you off. That's where that local relationship is really going to come in. So I can't necessarily name the name of a specific agency that you want to work with, but there are plenty of local people that offer amazing service and amazing products in your local market. You just have to go.
Bruce, I could real quickly add to that. In Florida, I still occasionally buy and flip property, and post all the hurricanes we've had in the last 10 years, it's kind of a nightmare to get full coverage. You got to do comprehensive inspections, 5-point inspections, very expensive. I found a little local company, and they actually insure it through Lloyd's of London. So they're dealing with the big boys. But I just called the girl. I've literally called her and said, I need insurance by 5 o'clock today. And they had insurance in place. This is the same day. So sometimes, now it's a little more expensive, but sometimes it's worth the extra cost for the convenience of being able to put something in place. And if you don't,
And it needs,
go ahead, Tim. I was going to say,
I
you
was
can
gonna
make,
say, it needs to be on your team. What you're saying is that's important. And
Yep.
I'm glad this came up because that is one of the things that you need to have on your team of people that you can refer to people.
Yep, absolutely. So great insight, guys. Another chatted in question before Doug. Doug, I promise you're next. So Caroline asked if we recommended running maybe a PPC campaign to drive traffic to your credibility website. And it's amazing that you brought that up today, because I just had a great coaching call yesterday with one of our longtime friends and subscribers, and we talked about credibility, digital credibility, and wanting to drive people there. And one of his pieces of business this year came from someone that Googled probate real estate agent in the city that he was in, and his name popped up. So I went and Googled probate real estate agent and the name he was in, and it was down the list a good ways. But someone had actually found him, and we started talking about maybe doing some PPC. If you don't know what PPC is, it's pay-per-click. So it would just be like Google AdWords, Bing. I mean, Google AdWords is really the dominant driver there, and targeting specific keywords. So probate real estate, inherited real estate, things like that. It's not going to get a lot of hits by any means, but it's going to make it where when they look you up, you pop up heavily. When they look up those keywords, you pop up. In this individual market, there was one agent with 3 main websites that popped up on the very first page of Google when you looked up probate real estate. And that person stands a great chance of getting a lot of business because they really own that first page of Google. So I think that it could be, there's something to be said for maybe doing some paid advertising around those specific keywords. Don't expect that you're going to spend a lot of money or get a lot of hits, but when you do, they're going to be really important hits.
It's also important to know that when you're first put your website up, and no matter how wonderful your website is, and we do a great job, and I think the credibility website that we provide is second to none in our industry without any question, because we've spent, a ton of time and energy and money to make sure we give you great content and a huge, massive list of frequently asked questions and glossaries of terms and everything there is to do with probate. But most importantly, getting organic hits. In other words, what you would get, just as Bruce said, getting it off of a website that you just put up when you start, it doesn't happen. It takes a while for that authority to build online, and driving some traffic to it is a way to do that. You eventually build it by the number of hits that get there. Google monitors everything under the sun, and one of the things they monitor is how much traffic's hitting your site. And they are brochure sites. It is replicated content in that yours has some of the same content that someone else in another market will definitely have, because the frequently asked questions are the same on all of them. We personalize them vigorously. The front page content's always different. The about is always different. So we try to give you a lot of that. And the more you add to it and differentiate your site, the more likely you are to begin to rise in those rankings. But it will take a while. From the beginning, all the traffic that's going to come is either going to come from the mailings that you do to land people there, or from pay-per-click. And we definitely encourage you to spend a little bit of money, drive some traffic, just to see what happens, see what kind of conversions you do get. And over time, it will gradually build organically. And I think if we don't get to Doug pretty soon, that fireplace behind him is going to burn down. So,
well, one last point on the pay-per-click. I think it's really, really important that you have a winning offer. I mean, on that particular ad, and that's where the messaging of that ad is super important. And I think that's where, developing those types of giveaways and that type of, content offer, whether it's a checklist or those types of things, which you can find the checklist in our marketing catalog. Those are going to be a good way to get eyeballs and interest to the ad and have them land on your site, as Tim was referring to.
Awesome. So Doug, I think you want to speak to market conditions and activating some urgency and some motivation in the people that you're talking to. Go right ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I had when the gentleman from Washington, D.C. Brought up the topic of, kind of market conditions and being on a decline, what came to mind for me, and again, so I do want to say, real estate's a local issue, right? I'm in Austin, Texas. Our market went like this, and ours has probably dropped the fastest in America as well. We're now 14% below where we were on May 1st this year. So, we're going through some significant changes. But that being said, my biggest challenge really is what I call the misinformed consumer. And that's where I'm taking the role of now saying, I'm trying to develop some language around not giving them my opinion, because I can tell you what my opinion is. My opinion is that our market's going to be fully in recovery mode by next June, and I've got a lot of data and rationale behind that. But rather than saying that, I'm showing them the stats. I'm showing them history, and I'm showing them economic reports from really credible sources. MIT PhDs in economics, things like that. And I actually have a 60-minute presentation. 25 minutes of it is really good meat and potatoes. I'm going to put that in the chat box and share it with everybody who wants to take a look. But at the end of the day, my challenge is really educating consumers. My belief is that we've actually been through maybe the worst part of the real estate market in the next couple of years. We might see some more decline in the rest of this quarter and the first quarter next year, but then it'll probably flatten out and start to get better. That's my belief. And so at the end of the day, when we're talking to PR executors, whoever it is, if they own real estate, they've only got a couple of options, right? If it's a vacant property, they can move in it, they can rent it, or they can sell it. I mean, those are the only options. So the language that I've adopted is, rather than trying to talk them into selling, is I'm arming them with info, and I'm saying, you could rent it out for 9 months or a year. You're going to have make-ready costs today. You might have some make-ready costs in a year, but you also might be in a slightly better market at that time. And I'm just honest about that. Mm-hmm. And that's a good, solid path to choose if you decide to go that route. Or we could use this time right now, get the house positioned and priced properly for when the market does really improve, which could be as early as March or April this coming year, right?
Yep.
You froze, Doug.
At the end of the day, I've been talking to and just being really strengthen those relationships and my credibility. And I think my business, unfortunately, next year will explode. I think next summer my business is going to be off the charts. And in the meantime, I'm picking up some people who have to sell. Vacant lots, for instance, got to sell it, right? Or homes that are in significant disrepair. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, and I go to, I think it was Rush Limbaugh coined like the low informed voter. People who go to the polls without all the right information to make a good, voting decision. I think that's what we're dealing with consumers today. Like, my clients are literally getting their information from TikTok, and the people who are speaking in these media sources they're not credible. And so I'm just trying to combat that. And sometimes I'm hearing people go, yeah, Doug, but you're a salesman. I hear you, I appreciate it, but I'm getting resistance. So I've turned it around and I'm saying, hey, I'm really concerned about the market too. And what I'm doing is I'm arming myself with info, and I'm just going to share it with you. Would that be okay? And people are saying, yeah, that's great. And then I'm just sending it, and I'm letting them, sit back and then, and when they come back to me, and they are, It's usually with, hey, this is good info. I really appreciate it. So anyway, I wanted to throw in that 2 cents because I think that what's happening is I have a lot of objections from clients right now, customers right now, that I'm not even hearing because they're not confident and the rates are crappy. And so the market is soft and people are they're going quiet. And so again, this is the approach I'm taking. I thought I'd share it.
Brilliant.
That's great.
Doug, a good friend of mine is is an expert on the financial markets, financial advisor, and the timelines that you just went over are almost identical to what he said. So you've done your research, and nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. But boy, an informed opinion which is what you have, is so different from what everybody else is doing. So thank you. I think that was brilliant.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and post that a link to this presentation in the chat just in case anybody wants to take a look. It's not mine. It's a third party. So
perfect. Bruce, are we coming up
All
on
right.
closing time, sir?
I think it's there, buddy.
All right. Anything you want to close with, Bruce, or you want me to take it from here?
Bruce had to hop off a little early. He's got his class.
Oh, he's got his training class. All right. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to particularly thank, and forgive the pronunciation, Iterar, I'm going to tell you right now, he was our winner of the week with that inspiring story. Doug, again, thank you for the brilliant analysis and observations. I want to thank everybody who actively participated. I actually want to thank Nadine, who has a great smile and she laughed at all of our jokes. So thank you, Nadine. I want to challenge each of you, take one thing that you learned on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back a week from Thursday. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you a week from Thursday. Take care, everybody.